whiteboard technology. Perfect. Ah, beautiful. Beautiful, big whiteboard. You can totally see it. This is totally legit. That's definitely the size that the paper is on the whiteboard. It is not small. It is exactly that large. Welcome to TWIG, your weekly, geekly, family-friendly news show that tackles everything from the Mid-Year Game Awards to Pam in Fortnite with some games in between. I am your nerd pastor, Nate, and I'm really the pastor of Checkpoint Church, the church designed with nerds, geeks, and gamers in mind online. If you're listening on the podcast version of the show, be sure to give us a good review. Click that like if you're over on YouTube, or come and listen live on Twitch every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, as all of these wonderful folks up here are doing. We're going to start, as we always do, with our what have you been watching, playing, and reading recently? What have you been getting into? I will start us off while we've got the chat rolling in. I have been finally, because I'm not really digging this season of anime, I've been digging back into the 1001 movies to watch before you die. I have quite a list built up at this point. Currently, I have finally watched Glengarry Glen Ross, never saw that before, Cinema Paradiso, and I am actively watching The Pianist in chunks. So a little Adrian Brody for me, enjoying all three of them so far. They're great films. They're on the 1001 list for a reason. I love doing those kind of lists and engaging with things that I missed out on because of the fact that I wasn't born yet. And so, it's a fun thing to do. I have been playing Fields of Mystria, and then some more Fields of Mystria. I'm enjoying that game so much. I love it. I love a good farming sim. This one has my heart, has my attention. I literally cannot stop playing. It's so good. I'm thinking about it right now. As a matter of fact, I wish that I were playing it this active moment. I'm also still playing Zenless Zone Zero, picking up on the chores and doing all those sorts of things. I'm very, very close to another standard pull where I'll get an S rank. So I'm pretty excited to see who my S rank will turn out to be. And then, of course, for Button Bash Brigade, I am playing Midnight Ramen. That is our game of the month. So I am a couple nights deep into that and looking forward to where the rest of the story goes. I'm reading a book called I Cheerfully Refuse. Almost done with that one. I'm also reading the not Button Bash Brigade. I'm reading the book club book for Checkpoint, the Heaven and Earth Grocery Store. Started that a couple chapters in. And then my binge of Hunter x Hunter continues. I started it 3 weeks ago, maybe now, 4 weeks ago, and I am on volume 25. So that's too many chapters, but it is what is getting me to sleep at night, and I'm not sleeping well. So it has been my companion in my insomnia, and there you go. It has taken up a whole lot of time, and I've caught up on a whole lot. I think I've already reached my 150 books for this year goal, which is simply silly. Catching up on some of the chat, Gobi Church is reading Elantris by Sanderson. J.M. Leon is enjoying the anime of the month, Fruits Basket. Of course, that's also what I'm watching. Also trying to complete Tavern Talk So Close so that you can start Midnight Ramen. Those games are going to be pretty similar. If I had to make a recommendation, I would find some breathing room in between them. Gobi Church is playing WoW War Within. Misi is playing Stardew Valley and reading The Great Gatsby. Gobi Church is also watching Hell on Wheels, and DB is watching Supernatural, playing Pikmin Bloom, and rereading the Dear Dumb Diary series. And Misi is watching every piece of Star Wars media. I still need to catch up on a whole lot of Star Wars media, but that all sounds pretty good. And we know that Humar Whitill is actively playing Cult of the Lamb, as they mentioned before stream actually began. So that sounds good. We got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of exciting things happening in the world of our lives in the community of Checkpoint, playing games, watching things, reading things, all that good stuff. I'm happy to have you all here and happy to go through some of the nerdy headlines of the night. So we're going to start with the one that everybody's talking about, probably the most important news that sort of hit out of nowhere, or at least it hit quicker than anybody would have expected. Sony is pulling its hero shooter Concord offline on September 6th, just 2 weeks after its August 23rd launch, due to low player numbers and mixed reception. All players will receive full refunds, and the game will no longer be accessible once refunds are processed. The decision reflects broader struggles in Sony's live service strategy, with the company scaling back plans to launch 12 live service games to just 6, following disappointing results, including the cancellation of another game based on The Last of Us. Concord had only 697 peak concurrent players on Steam, highlighting the challenges faced by the title. I am of mixed opinion on this one. I do think that it is always heartbreaking to see these things don't come out of thin air, and they have a lot of love put into them. They had a lot of work put into them. There were a lot of decisions that were made that were out of the controls of game developers, of artists, of people that put their blood, sweat, and tears into this. I'm sure that not every decision is one that everybody has to agree with that was made behind this, and obviously the higher-ups, C-suite, made some pretty poor decisions here. But it is always a bummer whenever something that could have been a great community builder and something that certainly was well crafted doesn't live up to the expectations or the standards. I think that this is a evident sign of the fact that live service games are not just like a shoe-in. I think for a while there, the game development C-suite thought that every live service game was going to be a gold mine. And I think what we're learning is that simply isn't the case. And no amount of marketing, which I will say this game did not do, but even still, there are games that had plenty of marketing that did not work, that did not pull it off. So I think it's just a sign, another kind of nail in the coffin of, live service games work when they work. They don't when they don't. They're just as much of a risk as every other game. And just the fact that Sony had the plan to launch 12 live service games, right? I mean, it's just evident that this is not what's going to work. It's not how it's going to go. I am reminded of Anthem. I don't know if y'all remember Anthem, but that was a game that had a similarly negative response and pushback. However, you could still buy Anthem. There were physical editions of it. It obviously wasn't a live service like this one was, which really only works if it has a community behind it. It is interesting also to see this in the wake of, what is the name of the Steam one, of the Valve one that just came out, Deadlock. It is interesting to see Deadlock, which similarly did no marketing, was very hush-hush about everything, and yet still they're making their hero shooter work, and not only work but sort of thrive by doing something their own way and by kind of making things work in their own end. It would not surprise me if this was dead in the water before launch and they just didn't really expect it to be quite as negative as it was. So they had the bar set low, and even still it performed lower. It could also be a situation where maybe they knew this was going to happen all along and they just kind of needed to put it out there because they'd already put the money into it. There's no doubt that they are going to eat this loss for a long time. And it is a bummer. Like I said, it's a bummer for the team. My heart breaks for the team behind this game, for the people that did put their effort and their blood and their vision into this thing. To have it pulled so quickly is heartbreaking. And it's got to be a real challenge for anybody that is trying to work through those emotions, work through those feels, and deal with it. I think there are a lot of games, especially AAA titles, that release to mixed reception, and not all of them, in fact, barely any of them get pulled. So this is obviously shocking. The fact that we also got full refunds delivered for it is a pretty big deal. That's something that you wouldn't have expected. I guess, it's kind of what was right in the situation, sure, but it's still something that I don't think you always see. And so it is kind of a make good, I suppose. I do think that using familiar IP probably would have been a better idea. My bigger question is, what happens next for Concord? Because as I understand it, they were pretty well ingratiated in multiple projects. They had things going on. They had stuff, they had their kind of IP being thrown into things. I'm thinking immediately of the Love, Death, and Robots series that's going to be coming out. I can't remember what it's called right now, Player Select or something, or Level Select or whatever. That has a Concord episode. And so it's like they now have an episode that they can't just pull back the reins on. They've animated this thing. And yet it's for a game that you can't even find anymore. It really does remind me of Anthem in a lot of ways. The kind of expectations, the disappointment, and the quick crushing of it. So it's an interesting time to be in the games industry. This is just another of kind of the ripple effects that we see from it. I do think that this is an interesting year for this game to come out in particular, where we've had the rabid success of plenty of games just like this. And maybe the market is simply too full. There's simply too many people that are out there that have a successful game. As a part of our kind of ministry arm of doing good and doing no harm, obviously we don't want players to be harmed. We don't want their time to be taken from them, but also we don't want the people that made this game to be experiencing any form of harm. So I hope that the companies will not only make good to the players by receiving full refunds as has been done, but also that the employees will be properly compensated, and if layoffs are necessary because of this unfortunate situation, that they will be properly severanced, which is a hard word, but nonetheless, it's one that is all too real in the game dev line right now. So a sad thing to see, no doubt about it, but hopefully this will be just kind of the last gasp of this Sony project, and now they will move into something else, do something a little bit different, and pull away from these live service attempts. I personally am not a live service gamer, with the exception now of Zenless Zone Zero. I really don't play games that have a battle pass. That's not been my steez, but this certainly was no exception. With that, we'll get into our next news story revolving around AI. Google researchers have reached a significant yet unsettling milestone by using AI to replicate a playable version of the classic game Doom. The neural network-powered engine, called Game Engine, generates gameplay based on video clips fed into the system, producing visuals at 20 frames per second with quality comparable to the original. The AI can simulate complex game elements like tracking health, managing ammo, and interacting with enemies and objects. This development, detailed in the paper Diffusion Models Are Real-Time Game Engines, marks a shift toward AI-generated game engines, similar to how neural models generate images and videos. While this technology opens exciting possibilities, it also raises crucial questions about training, human input, and ethical considerations in future game development. Also, mixed opinions on this one. I am not a proponent necessarily of AI, but I am also not a kind of doomsayer, I suppose, as it were. I'm not all doom and gloom about it either. But I do think that this is an interesting thing to look into, especially considering my personal skill set and my skill level, but also my passion. So I desperately would love to make video games. I have a real love of video games, and if I could, I have a lot of games that I would make, but it takes time. And I got 2 little kids, and just learning how to do the first lesson in Godot took me an entire weekend. So it's hard to make a game. And so being able to potentially tap into something that could help that process, that could provide a kind of crutch for me, I have to admit is interesting, because it allows me to tell the story that I want to tell in the way that I want to tell it without the skill set that is necessarily needed for that. Of course, then the question becomes, well, if anybody can do this, then will the market become a bit oversaturated? I'm not particularly concerned about oversaturation. I do think that what we see actively in the game sphere anyway is oversaturation. I don't think AI is going to exacerbate that. I don't think it's going to cut into that. Case in point, this past weekend, I needed a game to play whenever I knew I wasn't going to have service. And so I wanted to go, I felt like playing Suika Game, the watermelon merge game. And so I went to the App Store and I typed in Suika Game, and 150 options came up that were all cash grabs. They all had 1 million ads baked into them. They all had 3-star reviews because people had played them and realized just how corrupt the system was. Were these games made by AI? I doubt it. Game Engine isn't there yet. So these are just made by people who don't have very good intentions. And so I think that the reality of AI is maybe it will allow these people who are not good intentioned folks to do that more. But I have a feeling that the people that have been making them haven't been making them ethically anyway. They've just been stealing code. They've been taking the code for Suika Game from some other thing, putting their shell on it, and shoveling it out into the marketplace so that they can then make a pretty penny on it. So if nothing else, I'm hopeful that this will allow people such as myself that are storytellers that don't have the proper skill set to be able to tell those stories. I am hopeful that it will serve as a tool for me to utilize, or for someone in my shoes to utilize, to tell good stories instead of something to further manipulate the market or to be another manipulation of the capitalist system. I don't know if that'll be the case. I don't know what's going to happen with any of this. Nobody knows what's going to happen with AI, if we're being real. It's something that is evolving by the day. But I do think that the reality that it is creating Doom is leaning further into the meme that Doom can run on anything, that can be made on anything. I've seen people make Doom right in like Minecraft. So the reality is that this is still a very base level of game development, but that hopefully this can be something that is utilized ethically, responsibly, and tells better stories, deeper stories, and enables more development rather than backtracking or cash grabbing. That is maybe perhaps a dream, but I am not entirely negative on it. I am curious at best, and I probably will look into Game Engine just to see what it can do, because I am curious about the possibilities of it, while also being wary of the possible pushback and problems that it could cause. Find Doom for the calculator? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've seen it. I feel like I've seen it on everything. I've seen it on like a Samsung fridge. People can run Doom on just about anything. It's super fun. With that, we're going to do our third news story for tonight, revolving around Stardew Valley. Eric Barone, the creator of Stardew Valley, also known as Concerned Ape, recently discussed the possibility of a crossover with Fortnite, mentioning that he'd love to see the character Pam make an appearance. In a shared Discord chat, Barone explained that while there are no official plans, he's open to the idea and would also consider adding other characters like Abigail and Sebastian, or items like the Star Drop or Galaxy Sword. Barone noted that the idea of Pam in Fortnite started as a fun meme among his team during gaming sessions, highlighting their enjoyment of Fortnite's zero build mode. Although his team is currently focused on Stardew Valley, updates on the upcoming Haunted Chocolatier, Barone is open to a crossover if the opportunity arises. I think this is a good meme. I think this is a fun little time. I love that this is what Eric Barone is doing with his time. I love that for some reason Fortnite pervades even into the indie gamer scene. They actually care about it. You know, for me, my relationship with Fortnite is to not talk about it. I just don't care about it at all. And so it does surprise me whenever people that I have mad respect for as game devs are curious about it. But, you know, it is what it is. I don't see why this wouldn't happen, considering the levels of anime and random things that we have seen in Fortnite. I could certainly see them bringing in Stardew, bringing in Penny in Fortnite, bringing in any ridiculous amount of characters to this. However, I don't know. You know, could I play as Krobus? I probably would then. I would enjoy that a whole bunch. Could I do the wizard? That would be fun, but I don't know. I think that, to be frank, I love Stardew Valley, and I think Stardew Valley is one of the best, if not the best, indie game ever. I mean, I think it's up there in the big leagues. It's one of the finest that you could imagine, but I don't see anything of that level entering into the Fortnite sphere. It's all pop culture things, and often it's anime. So I don't know. I don't know if I see many video game characters crossing over into the Fortnite universe, but maybe we'll see it. If they approach Eric Barone, I think that'd be amazing, and I would love to see it, and I will absolutely be sharing it over into our Discord server should it ever happen, because I think it is hilarious, but I'm not holding my breath, to say the least. All right, with that, we're going to get into our special segment for tonight. So we are about 8 months into the year. I am certainly thinking towards December at this point, and my favorite event of the holidays, the Game Awards. So I thought it would be fun to do a little event tonight. If the Game Awards were tomorrow night, what do I think should win? I don't know what would win because I don't play all of the games. So we're only going to do games that I have actually played. So this is going to be the Nerd Pastor Nate Mid-Year Game Awards. We're going to go through the games that I have played so far this year that I think are worth their salt, or at least worth being considered or discussed for the major categories over at the Game Awards. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so glad that you are here. We have no world premieres planned for tonight. Hideo Kojima is over there in the wings, but I don't think he will actually be coming out onto the stage tonight. Nonetheless, we do have this high technology here. We've got state of the art, one of the finest things you've ever seen. Simply the best, as they say. Whiteboard technology. Perfect. Ah, beautiful, big whiteboard. You can totally see it. This is totally legit. That's definitely the size that the paper is on the whiteboard. It is not small. It is exactly that large, and I'm not using a second camera to exacerbate the size even a little bit. So, in 2024, this has to be games that have been released in 2024, and these are the games that I have to have played. Enough to the extent that I feel like I can adequately weigh in on them, which really makes one of these not count, but I'm going to go through. I've played 27 games this year, so I have their little cards here. The games that I have played this year are as follows: Unicorn Overlord, Harold Halibut, thank goodness you're here. I'm going to take this one off. So I've actually played 26 games this year. Pepper Grinder, Dungeons of Hinterberg, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, Fields of Mystria, P3 Reload, Tavern Talk, Hades 2, which, technically isn't out, but it's out enough. I mean, I got a big chunk out of Hades 2. Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, Paper Lily Chapter 1, Animal Well, Zenless Zone 0, 1000 Times Resist, Crow Country, Open Roads, Pal World, Poke Rogue, Balatro, Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden, Death of a Wish, Another Code Recollection, Penny's Big Breakaway, and Helldivers 2. And then obviously, Little Kitty Big City up here. So we're going to start with our first category of the night, which is, of course, I'm going to try and write these and we'll see how they look down here. Because if they don't focus at all, then it doesn't seem right, huh? Best. First category is best esports game. I don't play any esports games, so I don't think that I should even rank this category. I probably should have just left it off. Best esports game is probably going to be League, which I don't have a printout of. So chats in the clap to League. You did it. You nailed it. As always, you got the gold. Best multiplayer game of 2024. Let me see what my options even are. The Helldivers 2 certainly seems to be a dead ringer. I could see that one taking the cake. Pal World is sort of a multiplayer game. All right, I think that pretty well settles it. We've either got Helldivers 2 or Pal World taking the cake for this one, and I am going to have to give it up to, drumroll please, the winner is Helldivers 2. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up to Helldivers 2, the best multiplayer game of 2024 at this point in the year. I think this is an unquestionable winner. I don't see any way, legitimately, I don't see any way for this one not to be the one that actually does win it. But we'll see if another one manages to pull out the hat somewhere along the way. But I would not be surprised if this wins at the end of the year, not just right at this point. The next category is the best simulation or strategy game, which I actually think this is an unfair category. I don't think this one should count for both sim and strat. It should be one or the other, but let's see what contenders do I have for best simulator strategy game. When it comes to strategy, that's really the question, because I could see Balatro being considered a strategy game. So we actually have 6 entries, 6 nominees for best sim and strat game. Dungeons of Hinterberg, Tavern Talk, Fields of Mystria, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, Unicorn Overlord, and Pal World. And the one that I am going to say wins out above the rest for best sim and strat it's Unicorn Overlord. Unicorn Overlord is probably going to take the cake here for me. I don't think it'll actually end up winning at the end of the year. It didn't do very well, but I think it was a very good game. And I think it deserves the aplomb that comes with best sim and strat. I do think it is by far the best strategy game that we've gotten this year, but the sim is what really throws this one off. All right, that's best sim and strategy game so far this year. Next category is best family game. Now, to be real about best family game, I don't really play many family games, so I don't feel like I'm probably the one to ask about this. A lot of the games that I play, I would not say are comfy for family. So we got 2 family games in here, Little Kitty Big City and Penny's Big Breakaway. And the one that takes the best family game cake for me, we all know this isn't going to be it. It's probably going to be a Nintendo game that I didn't play this year. But for now, I'm going to say Little Kitty Big City is the one that takes best family game of the year. Chats in the clap for best family game so far this year. We love to see it. Another one we're going to skip because I don't play this genre of game is going to be fighting games. I don't play fighting games really. I don't even know what fighting games came out this year, so I feel like I probably better not even try. Next category is going to be best RPG, the best role-playing game. Couldn't be a much more broad category because I can't think of any game that isn't a game where you play a role. We got Zenless Zone 0, Persona 3 Reload, Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, Hades 2, Unicorn Overlord, and Dungeons of Hinterberg. And the best RPG of 2024 is unquestionably Persona 3 Reload. You just don't get better than a Persona game, and Persona 3 Reload was a masterclass in how you remake a game, re-release a game, and create just an exceptional experience all around. So congratulations to Persona 3 Reload for taking the cake on Best RPG. Next up, we have Best Action Game, which I still don't know what is the difference between an action game and an action and adventure game, but here we go. So we've got Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden, Pepper Grinder, Dungeons of Hinterberg, Senua's Saga, Hades 2, Zenless Zone Zero, Helldivers 2, and Death of a Wish. The best action game of 2024 so far has been... I'm giving it to Pepper Grinder. Out of all of the action games that I have played so far this year, the one that I think is the most snappy, if not so snappy that it might even be a little bit frustrating, could be Pepper Grinder. And I don't see this one actually taking the cake here, so I'm going to give it the cake to make it feel better about itself. Pepper Grinder is the one. Next category, Best Action Adventure. Which again, I don't understand the difference between these two things, and yet I can kind of figure out which games quantify. And I am going to give our Action and Adventure Award this year to, drumroll please, Dungeons of Hinterberg. While it was not a perfect game by any means, it is the closest thing we got to a Zelda game this year, and we all know that Zelda games always win Best Action and Adventure. Now, granted, we do actually have a Zelda game coming out a little bit later in the year, so probably going to overtake this one, but look, let it have its moment, let it enjoy it for now. It was a pretty good game, although it did burn out a little bit quick for me, but it was still really pretty and really interesting. Next category is going to be the Best Mobile Game. I don't think I need to go through all of the categories for this one for you all to know which one I'm going to pick. Maybe I'm wrong, but for those of you that have been on Twig for the past many weeks, you've heard me playing one game and one game alone, and that is going to be, obviously, Zenless Zone Zero, and I am playing it on mobile. I am one of the people that is playing it 99% of the time on mobile. So, chats in the clap to Zenless Zone Zero for taking home Best Mobile Game. Next up, the Best Debut Indie. I am going to take my time with this one because y'all know that I love indie games. I'm pretty sure that Dungeons of Hinterberg was a debut. Pal World was a debut. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes may have been a debut. I'm not 100% sure. Fields of Mystria was a debut. Tavern Talk was a debut. Balatro, I think, might have been a debut. Open Roads might have been a debut. Animal Well, I know, was a debut. Harold Halibut, I believe, was a debut. Pepper Grinder was a debut. Little Kitty Big City might have been a debut. 1000 Times Resist was absolutely a debut. Crow Country might have been a debut. Can you tell my favorite video game genre? Because these are all my indies that I play. Death of a Wish was not a debut, unfortunately, but it was indeed an indie game. Okay, so we have a lot for debut indie. I think all of these are debuts. Some of them may not be. You can feel free to correct me in the comments or in the chat if any of these are not debut games. But we have Crow Country, Animal Well, 1000 Times Resist, Pal World, Dungeons of Hinterberg, Lorelei and Laser Eyes, Fields of Mystria, Little Kitty Big City, Tavern Talk, Harold Halibut, Open Roads, Balatro, and Pepper Grinder. And this is a heck of a category. It is stacked. We've had so many amazing indie games this year, and a lot of them have been brand new contenders from brand new games. For me, where I am at right now, the best debut indie of this year has to be, unquestionably will be, and will be the winner this December. Y'all, it's gonna be Animal Well. If you aren't prepared for it to be Animal Well, just go ahead and prepare yourself now. It's gonna be Animal Well. I just can't imagine any other circumstance than it being Animal Well. So that is pretty certain to me as far as this year goes. With that, we're gonna get into our best indie overall. Doesn't have to be a debut. Now, this one I am going to push back a little bit on because I do think that Animal Well probably is going to win this one as well. But I do feel a little bit funny about a game winning both debut and also indie. So I'm going to pick a different one, and we'll just say that they're kind of interchangeable and that this could probably win like either one. But I am going to say that the best indie game of this year for, oh man, there's so many good ones. I'm trying hard to decide, y'all. I don't know, dude. This is really tough. I know my answer, so maybe I'll just say my answer rather than harp too much on what I think is actually going to happen this December. Because honestly, I think Animal Well is probably going to take both of these somehow. But I think the best indie game that I played so far this year was 1000 times resist. An absolutely impeccable story, fantastic characters, loved every minute of it, and I think it deserves way more praise than it's getting, way more attention than it's getting, and I doubt it will even be considered as a contender at the Game Awards, let alone a winner, but it absolutely should win. All right, next up. Next category is, of course, Best Community Support. There are really only two answers for this one, for me at least, and I am going to say it is not the one that you might have expected me to think. I very much have, I think that Zenless Zone Zero has done a fantastic job taking care of their community. They've done some really great things, supporting their community and all of that good stuff. However, I think it's pretty unquestionable that of everybody that had community support and community engagement, the one that takes the cake for me has got to be Helldivers 2. I don't know where you are January through April, but if you were playing this game, then you were on their social media, you were engaging with them in their chats, in their streams, all sorts of stuff. They were so good at community support. And then I'm going to just leave them up for Best Ongoing. Because while I think that they have had a few rocky tumbles recently, they are still probably the best ongoing. I could also see this one going to Palworld, but in all honesty, I just think Palworld kind of dropped off the face of the earth. So did Helldivers, I suppose, but feels like Palworld fell a bit harder. But that could just be my personal experience with it. So I'm not, calling this one any more than I'm just kind of a guess here. All right, next up, we're going to have to erase the word best, finally. All right, next up, we have Games for Impact. All right, the Game for Impact of this year. I'm pretty sure I know my answer. I'm pretty sure I know the answer it's going to be. But let me just look through just to make sure that I am indeed correct. Yep, I feel pretty good about my answer. I don't think this is going to be the one that wins it, but I really, really hope it does. And that is going to be 1000 times resist, by far the most emotional game that I've played this year. Told an absolutely killer story of honesty, of racism, of challenge, of comparison, of matricide, and of everything in between. An exceptional, exceptional game that absolutely deserves Games for Impact. Whether or not it will get it, who could say? All right, next up we have Innovation in Accessibility. What was the most accessible game of this year? I'm gonna peruse real quickly, but I think I have my answer. Just want to make sure there's nothing that takes the cake. All right, the game that I think will probably get this because it needs to get something is going to be Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. I think it had accessibility options. I don't know if they were super innovative, but let's hope so because they need the dub, and this might be the only place they get it. Except for in this next category, which I'm probably going to leave it up for, even though I think that some of the 1000 times resist were better. That is Best Performance. Best Performance by an actor. Let's see if there's any that might take the cake over our star, Senua. Ooh, that's going to be tough. All right, so I'm going to add to the category some other nominees, and that is going to be Hades 2. Really, any of its performers are exceptional. Unicorn Overlord, Vanillaware does a fantastic job with their games. Persona 3 Reload just has a absolutely stacked cast of voice actors. And then the one that I think might take the cake over Senua this year, it's going to be Matt Berry from Thank Goodness You're Here. I think this is Matt Berry's year. I feel like maybe we could get him at the TGAs, and maybe he'd actually come up and accept the reward. We'll see, but I think I could see that being really the only thing that Thank Goodness You're Here could possibly get this year. Maybe something else, maybe a later category, but I could see Matt Berry taking home the Performance Award this year. All right, next up, our next category is Best Audio Design. Best Audio Design this year. Honestly, Thank Goodness You're Here is a contender. Persona 3, as always, is a contender. Senua's Saga is always a contender here. Hades 2 is also one. I'm going to throw in 1000 times Resist. Helldivers 2. Harold Halibut. Pepper Grinder. Not Balatro. I'm not going to throw in Balatro. Little Kitty Big City. Death of a Wish. Animal Well. Crow Country. Dungeons of Hinterberg, Zenless Zone Zero, Another Code. Ooh, Another Code could also be another voice acting one. Unicorn Overlord, and that's probably it from this category. I am going to say that the best audio design for me this year has been... I'm going to give it to Animal Well this year. I think Animal Well absolutely brought their A game. I think it was an exceptional experience. I think that the vibes that they brought about through their gameplay, through the lyrical elements of just the sonic landscape that they put you in, I think was really very, very good. So I could see that one taking the cake here for audio design. Related to this one is best score. Realistically, for the record, I think that Sinnoa is going to be the one that wins audio design, but I just wanted to say that I think Animal Well did a really good job here. Best music, let's see, best music and score. For me and my family, we never vote against a Persona game. So it's also going to be Persona 3 Reload here. I don't even know if Persona, to be frank, will be considered at the Game Awards this year since it is a remake, but that's going to be the one that takes home score and music for me. Next up, Best Art Direction. Look, nobody knows what they're going to do with Best Art Direction. Nobody knows who will win, if it's going to be a AAA that had a budget of $1 billion or if it's going to be somebody else. But I think that the unquestionable deserving winner of it is going to have to be Harold Halibut. Harold Halibut is a clay doll rendered game, and it is very, very interesting to look at. It's hard to deny the art direction that went behind it, the care and attention that went into it, the characters of it were really immaculately designed. So I got to give that one the art direction for me. We're nearing to the end with our top 3 categories here. Best narrative of the night, best narrative game. There are a lot of really good stories that I've heard this year. A lot of really exceptional stories that have been told this year. This is one that will not win this category. I just guarantee it because I know the Game Awards by now. But this is the one that I think should unquestionably win it for me. And that is going to be, once again, 1000 Times Resist. Absolutely deserves Best Narrative this year. They told an exceptional story in an exceptional way. 2 thumbs ups. Best Game Direction. What game was best directed this year? I could definitely see us going back again to Harold Halibut here. But I am going to, let's see, I'm going to make sure. I think I know what it's going to be, but I'm going to just triple check that I do. I feel pretty comfortable doing this one. It goes along with community support. I'm also going to say the best game direction of the year was Helldivers 2. It was just kind of the perfect package. They really cared about their team, and they did a good job of creating the atmosphere, the experience, and doing a live service game 100% properly. So I'm going to give them the best game direction this year. Don't think that's who it's going to go to, but that's who I'm going to give it to. Last but not least, not the best GOATY, but just the GOATY. Who is the game of the year this year, in the year of our Lord 2024? Who is it going to be? Let me look through all of my options before making the final say. Drum roll, please. For me, it really comes down to 2 games that I think deserve my GOATY, and that is between Animal Well and 1000 Times Resist. And the answer for me, if it's not obvious by now, my GOATY so far is 1000 Times Resist. I don't think that it is the best game of all time. Ludologically, I don't think it plays super interestingly. It is a bit of a walking sim, but the story, the voice acting, the characters, the narrative, the attention to detail, the world, the uniqueness, the audio design, the music, all of it goes into one perfect package that is 1000 Times Resist. So, chats in the clap for all of our contenders for tonight. We appreciate you. I hope that some of these you agree with. I hope that some of them you disagree with, and let me know what you would have put in those spots instead. What games have you played from 2024? I would be fascinated to hear more about them. But with that, we are going to get into our next segment of the show, which we actually don't have anybody here for Cryptic Critiques, so we're not going to be doing Cryptic Critiques next. Instead, we're going to do a different segment that I'm going to bring into the fray probably on the first of each month. We'll see. I don't have a theme song for it yet, so you can just imagine for a moment that there's some kind of song in the background going on. It's the start of something new. Here we go. The start of something new. Those subscription services are adding in new games. Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Plus are getting new games starting in this month, of course. So here are the games that are going to be coming to Xbox Game Pass. On September 4th, you're going to be getting Age of Mythology Retold. That is coming to all of the services for Xbox. Expeditions, a Mud Runner game, is going to be hitting, it looks like everything but series. Oh no, it's just all of it. It's going to be hitting hitting everything on September 5th. September 11th, Riders Republic is going to be hitting everywhere. And on September 17th, Train Sim World 5. Those are 4 games that I'm not interested in even a little bit, but this is also just the first wave that has been announced for September. So if any of those games sound good to you, then I hope you will consider subscribing to Xbox Game Pass, the best deal in gaming as always. PlayStation Plus subscribers will be getting 3 games as is usual for the monthly game package for September. The 3 games this month are Little Nightmares 2, MLB The Show 24, and the one that I have a feeling most people are anticipating, Quidditch Champions. Now, as for me, I'm not a big Harry Potter fan, and I'm certainly not interested in playing Quidditch. But for those that are, that is what you're getting this month, and that will probably be pretty cool. Little Nightmares 2 is certainly one that intrigues me more among those, but alas, that is what is the start of Subthing New, whatever we want to call that. I probably can't steal copyrighted music, so probably not actually going to do that, but you can imagine some kind of stinger with something new. Yeah, all right. Next up, we are going to get into my personal favorite segment of the show.
At this point in nerd history.
That's right, it's time for At This Point in Nerd History, everything that released on this exact day throughout time and space in the world of games, movies, TV shows, anything else. On September 3rd, in 2019, we had 2 games released on the same day. Children of Morta, which is a game that has been routinely recommended to me, and then the DLC full collection edition of Catherine, titled Full Body, was released in 2019. 2009, Lego Batman, the video game, came out for the Nintendo DS. And in 1998, Hideo Kojima, who's over there in the corners from our Game Awards earlier, released Metal Gear Solid, the very first one. 1996, the Game Boy Pocket was released in Japan. 2 movies that released throughout time and space. 2021, September 3rd, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, I think is maybe the full title. That came out and is one of the best of that particular wave of Marvel movies. And in 2010, Machete, the one and only pulp film Machete, was released. A fantastic Danny Trejo, one of the best, always a good time. A random on September 3rd of 1833, the first successful penny newspaper in the U.S. was launched by Benjamin H. Day. That newspaper was the New York Sun. So there is your Jeopardy hint as well for today, but that is one that I thought was interesting. Without the newspaper, we wouldn't have entertainment like we do, so I always appreciate the history of it and the existence of it nonetheless. With that, let's get into our next segment of the show. It's time for upcoming releases, games that are coming out in the next week, give or take, that I am excited about. 3 games coming out, particularly actually more games if you're considering my third option. The first game that is coming out this week is one that I've had my eye on since I played its demo. Shogun Showdown is a turn-based combat game with roguelike and deck-building elements. Position yourself and attack at the right time, upgrade your tiles, and combo them to get ready to face the Shogun. It's very, very good if you like roguelike and deck builders. If you're a Slay the Spire fan, anything like that, you'll probably enjoy Shogun Showdown. Astrobot is a platformer featuring 6 galaxies and over 80 levels in search of Astro's scattered crew. Astro can use over 15 new abilities that take full advantage of the DualSense controller. If you have not played the original Astro demo, then you need to, and then you'll be as excited as everybody else is for the Astrobot game. It's going to be a ton of fun. Tons of familiar faces from the PS universe are going to be there, and I'm very excited for it. I think it's going to be a good time. Honestly, I think it might be fun to play with my daughter. I feel like there's a kiddishness to Astro that is really enjoyable. So I'm looking forward to that. I've heard that they're already planning an Astrobot 2, so they're anticipating this game will do pretty well. My third and final upcoming release that I'm excited about is Ace Attorney Investigations Collection. Ace Attorney Investigations Collection features both Miles Edgeworth's Investigations games, including the previously Japanese exclusive sequel. The remake includes full HD graphics along with quality of life improvements and special bonus materials. I'm so jealous of everyone that gets to experience these games in HD full quality and not ported over because I had to experience these games in a way that, is not ideal. Either on old, extremely dated hardware, or for the sequel, I just had to find it. And so that was a pain, and I literally just finished it a few months ago, and then they announced the collection. So I am outraged about the fact that it exists now, but it does exist, and I hope that you all enjoy it. I hope that you'll consider playing it. If you enjoy Ace Attorney games, the investigation series are fantastic. They're great stories with great familiar characters and some new ones that you meet along the way. And I love Miles Edgeworth. I think he's a great character, and this does a great job exploring some of his adventure. I highly, highly recommend these games to you. If you think that Ace Attorney games maybe don't do enough, there's not enough movement in them, this one does add some walking sim elements to it. So that might entice you into considering these games, especially with the new HD graphics. I can't wait until Barry was streaming, plays these. I sure hope he plays them because I am going to watch every single minute of them. I do know there have been some pretty cringy name changes in it, but let's be real, it's Shu Takumi. So like the names are already pretty cringy, and we're just going to be okay with that. With that, we're going to get into our last segment of the show. Meme of the week. It is time for our meme of the week. I thought I was going to go to it. Here's our meme from the one and only Sugar Haiku on adulting. This one says, when I am president of video games, all games will have an adults with busy lives feature. Hi, I haven't seen you play this game in a month. Or I see you haven't played this game in a month. Here's a reminder of the last thing you did and where you need to go next. Press X for a quick tutorial of the controls that you forgot. Big mood there, especially as we are going to get back into Stars in Time tomorrow, and I literally don't remember anything that happened in the last one. So it doesn't even have to be that you played it in a month. It could be just a week and you just have adult brain. You just have two kids brain, where you have two kids, and so brain don't work as good. But this is our meme of the week. If you'd like to be considered for meme of the week, be sure to use our Memes and Goofs channel over in our Checkpoint Church Discord, Discord in the chat at any point in time, or down in the description down below if you're watching over on YouTube or listening on our Spotify version of the show. Make sure to follow us on Discord, join the community, be a part of that. It's an awesome place, and we would love to get to know you there. With that, we're going to get into our closing notes. I know this has been a weird one. A solo Twig is always a bit different. I hope that you've enjoyed it nonetheless. I hope that you enjoyed our mid-year game awards, and I'm sorry we didn't have any world premieres. I'm sorry that Mr. Kojima didn't decide to actually come out and say anything this time, but maybe next time that will happen. But for now, this has been Twig, your weekly, geekly, family-friendly news show delivered live on twitch.tv/checkpointchurch each and every week, keeping your family connected to the world of nerdy news. If you watched this far, you likely enjoyed this one, so remember to give us a 5-star on your podcast app. Click that like button. Recommend the show to all of your favorite nerds. Folks, we appreciate everybody that watches the show, but we want to give an extra special shout-out to those that do support us financially through subscriptions here on Twitch. So thank you to Deacon Shannon LS, DJ Courageous, Nerd Pastor Nate, Trombone Dalek, Gobi Church, Coyote42, Perspective, Zando, Calrissian, Akeem 4752, Mindful Marlena, Maybe 30 Bats, Wise and Lee, Merly Animal Art, Sneaky Bigs, 633, Sugar Haiku, Bleach, Tina Christina P, JM Leon 42, The Phoenix 2192, Jate Live, Twilight 27, and DGC 121996. With that, or is there going to be Twig next week? Yes, there will be Twig next week. I look forward to seeing you then for more nerdy news with a family-friendly slant to it. We are always glad that you are here and are joining us for these streams. I hope that you enjoyed Twig, and I hope that you know that we are really a church, and I am really a pastor, and that we really believe 3 things to be true about every single one of you out there, whether you believe in God, don't believe in God, go to church, don't go to church, hate God, hate church. We still believe these things to be absolutely true about each and every one of you. Number 1, that God loves you, like really, really loves you. Number 2, we love you. We want community with you. That's what we're doing here. And number 3, really, that you, yes, you matter. You are a person of sacred worth. The world is a better place. Why? Because you are in it. Folks, with that, and until the next time that I see you, I look forward to hopefully catching you on our stream tomorrow morning. We'll be continuing in Stars in Time, or for lunch right after that, or catching you around our YouTube channel, or on our Discord anytime, 24/7. We're always on there. I look forward to seeing you in one of those places sometime soon. Until next time, folks. Bye-bye.